Hey friends, my name is Linda Dolke and I'm a demonstrator with Stampin' Up in Australia. Today we're going to be doing some watercolouring with our stamps, and this is the card that we're making. I've used the Grassy Grove stamp set, but this is actually a really simple technique. You just need a few supplies, and I'm looking forward to showing you how easy it is to do. So this is the card I wanted to show you today. We're going to be using our stamps to paint with, basically, or to watercolor with, and this is something I like to do quite often. We build a scene. The set that I'm using today is Grassy Grove, but I could use a whole bunch of different sets. Another one that's great for this is Oceanfront. This is in one of our, these are both in our latest mini catalogue. I did a card with this one the other day, and I might do that in one of my live videos this weekend. Perhaps there's a card I've done with this one. Okay, so you can create all kinds of different looks, but by giving them the watercolor treatment, it really gives you an extra dimension to your stamping. Okay, this is just a fun thing to do, and it makes you feel a bit clever. You feel like a bit of an artist. So let's have a quick look in here. This set is called Grassy Grove. Here it is on page 47. It's this one, and it does have matching dies. So it is actually a bundle that you can get the dies as well. I have both. I really love the dies because they're great for making diorama cards or extra scenery, especially they look great like in silhouette. However, today I'm not using those. Okay, today I'm just going to go with the stamps. Okay, and here this is what we're going to create. So for this, you're going to need a few basic things. First of all, the most important thing, you need good quality watercolor paper. Okay, you can get away with, if you don't have this, shimmery white cardstock will hold a reasonable amount of water for the watercolor effect, but I'm using our Fluid 100. It's this stuff here. It's called Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Really good quality cotton paper. Okay, so I thoroughly recommend this. It's really great, similar to like Canson papers and things like that. Okay, so you can see this is the same size. I've actually met, this is the width of the cotton paper. As you can see, it's the full width, which is 5 inches across, which is 5 inches across is a little bit, it's about 12.5 centimeters if you're doing it in metric. Yep, about 12.5 centimeters. And across this way is 3.25 inches, which is around about 8 centimeters. Okay, roughly. Okay, I'm being really rough here, but you want it to fit. This is a panel that's going to fit on a card front. Okay, so that's why I've chosen that size. All right, let's start with our piece of paper right here. And I've already pulled out the stamps that we're going to be using. This great big one here is the first one. All right, and the colors I'm using, I'm only using a couple of colors. For most of this, I'm just using Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen, which are both relatively new colors. So let's start with Soft Succulent, and I'm going to ink up this big kind of, what would you call this stamp? I don't know. It's kind of like just ground, really, isn't it? It's got some bushes and bits and pieces, and I'm going to bring it right down to the bottom here and go a tiny bit off the page, okay, because I want this quite low. So I'm going to go over the edge, give it a good old press, and you can see I've gone pretty much off the edge here. Now, this is the very first step. We're going to be using a water painter. So this is the other thing you need, either a water painter or a brush with water. Okay, so watercolor paper, ink, stamps, and a water painter. They're the basics, all right? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go with my water painter straight over the bottom here. Now, it's interesting that some colors move more than others. So all I'm doing here is I'm kind of going over the whole thing to give it kind of a bit of a watercolored look. And this is where my watercolor paper comes in because it handles the water quite well. Okay, and I'm just going over the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of cover that whole piece. So you can see you still have the image, hasn't changed that much. Now some colors, like I say, move more than others. So Evening Evergreen, this one moves a lot more than the Soft Succulent, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. All right, so let's have a quick look back here. You can see I've got all the a very similar effect to the first one. And because it's a stamp, it's going to come out, the image is going to be pretty similar each time. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up my little pine trees. And like I said, the evening evergreen is going to move more than the soft succulent. For whatever reason, I am not sure. I'm coming right down here so that the bottom of the trunks actually goes slightly off the page. So it's right over here on the edge, okay, just like that. And you can see there's quite a lot of fine detail in here. So I'm actually going to do one stamp at a time. I'm going to come back in with my brush. You can either use the fine or the medium. This is the medium brush. In a pack you get fine, medium and a broad stroke brush, but I usually use the fine one or the medium, either interchangeably. I'm going to start here at the top, and I'm just going to move very, very lightly, move this ink from side to side. So I'm just using the very, very tip of my brush. All right, and you should be able to see it's starting to broaden the look of these pines quite nicely and spreads that color. See what I mean about the color moving a lot more with this darker color? Okay, you can keep your trunk exactly as it is if you want to, or you can make it look a tiny bit fuzzy if you like it's been watercolored by running your brush over it. But I didn't do too much with it. I'm going to go in and do the second one. So there's a little bit of, you don't want your water paint, you don't want to squeeze it too hard because you don't want water going everywhere, but you want there to be a little bit of water coming out the end so that it moves this ink around. And as we come down, you see it's just giving us a little bit of more of a watercolor look. There's still detail there, but it's also moving the color. Okay, now up to you if you want to have more trees. I decided I wanted more. So what I did was, this has already been stamped once, so I'm not going to re-ink it. I'm going to go a little bit higher so the trunks, these ones are looking like they're a little bit further back. Can you see what I've done there? And I'm going to even do a third one, come down a little bit. Okay, so now I've got sort of more green, but it's a bit lighter. In fact, it's a really similar color to the soft succulent that we put down at the beginning. So I'm just going to kind of move, and these trees at the back, it's okay for them to be a little less distinct because it's almost like they're further away. So let's bring in that. So the trick here is to not try, if you want them to look like they're further away, don't re-ink them. Okay, you want them to be fainter so they look like they're a bit further away in the distance. Okay, you can have as many as you like there. You can see I've done I've stamped 3 times with this one as I did here, but just they're clumped together a little differently. And I also put a couple over on this side, so let's do that as well. Let's re-ink, and I'm going to do one here right off the edge. So I'm only seeing one tree, not the both. Okay, and I'm going to re-ink this because I don't want to lose that edge bit. I'm going to stamp it off and then do a second one. So now I'm getting a little bit more there. I'll go over my big tree first. You can see that it's spreading that color quite nicely. This is a really great way to get a bit of a different look with your stamps. And it's something I have done many times. If you go back through my videos, you'll see I've done, this is not my first rodeo with these kind of, this technique. I really, really love it. I did it with the snowfront set. I've done it with the waterfront set. I've done it with a whole bunch of different ones. Some sets just lend themselves really well. This one's probably not as obvious as some, but as you can see, it does work quite nicely. All right, so there we go. We've got a closer one, the one that we've got the darker color, and then we've got a couple sort of sitting behind. Okay, so that's coming together quite nicely. I've also got here, this is like a little grassy bit, and I guess this is where it gets its name from, the Grassy Grove set. I am going to do this once again in the evening evergreen because I want it to stand out, and I want this to be in the foreground. So I'm going to ink it up, make sure I haven't got too much. I always have to check to make sure I haven't got ink around because you don't want that to spoil the look of your thing. And I'm just going to go down here so that this bit here is kind of off the page. And that's going to, you can see it's just like it's a bit of grass down here at the front. And then this one I'm going to go a little higher. I don't mind if this one looks a bit different. See, I've got more of the grass here. If you wanted to, you could put a little bit in the middle. Okay, it's grass, so it really doesn't matter. Now you could just leave it like that. I think it looks quite nice with all the fine detail against the less detailed trees. Up to you if you wanted to come in with your brush and maybe add a little bit of depth here at the front. Quite like a little bit of extra color there, but that's totally up to you. And then I'm going to do the same again. I'm just going to sort of run my brush right away, all the way along, just to give a little bit of extra depth there at the front. Okay, that's looking good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to do the sky next. You can see this is looking quite similar to the first one. A little different, but really, really similar. So I am going to do the sky. Now for this, I chose to do two colors. I want it to look a little bit like, you know, a sunset or maybe a sunrise. We've got the pale papaya here for the further down, and then we've got rich raspberry, which is going to be up towards the top. Okay, you can see that's exactly what I've done in this one. Pale papaya, rich raspberry. So I've got my two blending brushes here. Now, so blending brushes are really great for adding a beautiful sky to an image like this. I mean, you could just leave it like this, but I think it to me feels like it needs to be completed with a sky. So I'm going to pick up some pale papaya ink. Now, when I go in and do this, I like to not go all the way to the skyline. I like to actually go just a little bit above. I don't know if you can see on here, just by not going quite all the way, there's like a little gap, almost looks like a glow along the edge here. It adds to the whole look. So let's try doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of come in from, sometimes I like to just go off on my scrap paper first to make sure I haven't got like a clump of ink. And then I'm going to very, very lightly start to circle in. And now once I get going, I can go backwards and forwards. And like I said, I'm not going all the way down. I'm going to go again. I'm just going to go all the way to the top now. You can be a bit rougher with it up here because we're going to be adding pink at the top anyway. Also, you can decide if you want to fill any little bits in at the sides there where there's a bit of background showing. I'm actually okay with that. All right, so you can see what I mean, how I haven't gone all the way down, so we've got the glow right on the skyline there, which I think looks great. Then we're going to add our rich raspberry. Now you could add any pink. Blackberry Bliss would also work. You could add a Highland Heather, like a purple, or a number of colours here. You could go with even Flirty Flamingo, although it's quite bright, but that could be a nice sunset colour as well. If you don't like the pinks or purples, you could come in with pumpkin pie or something orange. So, all right, so I've picked up some colour. I'm just going to go off on here first. See how you can see that circle. There's a bit of a clump there. So now I'm going to sort of start off the edge and then circle on. And this is a really nice way of adding very, very soft colour. Now I did get a couple of little blobs on here as I'm doing this. I don't know if you can see them. There's a couple of little blobs here. There's a couple of things we can do about those. We can make that the place where our greeting goes. You can see on this one, my greeting is over towards the right, and I do like the placement of this. So I'm thinking something else that we can do. Now we have a couple of sets that have got birds. And we have a new set that's coming out next month called Ways of Inspiration. This comes out in March 2022. Beautiful, beautiful set. And see the little birdie here? So let's make good use of him. I've got this cool little bird, and I'm going to add him to a tiny little block. This is block A, which is plenty big enough for our birdie. Okay, now I'm deciding what colour. I could either do him in Evening Evergreen or I could do him in Memento Black, which might mean more. I'm going to do my greeting in Evening Evergreen, so let's just give it a try and see. All right, so I'm going to ink this up and test it out to make sure it's looking good, and it is. Make sure when you do this that you don't have any extra ink on your stamp. You don't want ink around the edge because that would totally wreck the way this looks. And our little blob is completely covered with a nice little birdie. So I borrowed him from another set, but I think you're right. I think you can see that that's a really great way to cover up any blobs that you might have. You could also add embellishments such as, you know, your iridescent rhinestones. They would look nice as well, but sometimes if you don't want to do that, then just a little stamp like that can be the answer. All right, so I'm going to use my Evening Evergreen again, and I'm going to ink up my sentiment. I really love this sentiment from this set. It says, sometimes you need to know that someone really cares, which I think is lovely. And I'm going to pop that over here on the right hand side, just like that. We're nearly done. All we have to do now is to put this on a card base. All right, so I'm just going to come in here with my, oh, managed to get ink on there. Got ink on my fingers. All right, that's okay, because we'll just turn that over and make it the back. All right, so this piece is going to go on here. I popped mine on dimensionals. You can choose dimensionals if you like, or you can put it down straight, whichever you like. But I'm a big fan of dimensionals. I think dimensionals make everything look wonderful. That's just my personal opinion. I know anyone with me. All right, so let's pop this over here. So we just line it up so it's in the center. And there we go. All right, so now I have two beautiful cards. Look at that. Almost identical to each other. I think they turned out really, really nice. It's a really great, easy technique, but it makes you feel like a bit of an artist. And you're using stamps in a bit of a different way. So don't ever think you have to stay with the stamps as they are. Adding a little bit of water on watercolor paper can give you a beautiful, beautiful effect. I mean, the stamps are beautiful as they are, but this watercolor look just takes them up to the next level, I think. And I hope you like them too. That's it from me today. Don't forget to check back at my live videos this weekend. Friday night and Sunday night I will be here and showing you new techniques and new ideas with new stuff. Have a great day, guys. Bye.